Hey everybody, you take a look down below, you kind of see what the title is, and this is sort of inspired. This is going to be one of maybe two inspired videos by Doug Walker's recent top 11 video that he did, or top 10 video that he did, which that video that he did, his most recent one, was sort of a response, if you will, sort of a, like I say, sort of a response and everything, or basically inspired by his Nostalgia Critic Top 11 video in the same category. So, but this one's a little bit different, and this one's basically I'm going to say my top 5, because there's not many I could think of, but my top 5, what could have been in animated couples. And basically what that is these are basically couples, this is basically couples that will sort of could have been in animation, and if not in comics as well. So kind of like animation, comics, comics and everything. So, and when I mention some of them, you might kind of be like, nah, that would have never been. But I'm going to explain to you why. And first of all, I'm going to start off with the number 5 here. And number 5 is going to be one that a lot of people are going to be like, well, it never would have been anyway. Number 5 is Tails and Amy. Yeah, Tails and Amy of Sonic X, Tails and Amy of the video games, Tails and Amy of the comic books. And a lot of people are like, well, why? And again, I know a lot of you are going to be like, Brian, that never would have been. That's not possible. And it's true. And you're right. It probably isn't possible or anything. But to me, I look at all the hints thrown out there and everything. And in the early stages, in the kind of like in the early midways of the stories, basically from the 50-ish issues to the 70-ish issues, between those first 50 to 75 issues, you sort of got an idea that they could be together and all that. And then and you take a look at the panels sometimes in the comics, and it kind of gives you that reflection of what could have been. I mean, at the end of 177, you kind of see them kind of celebrating and they're holding hands, and Tails is swinging her around happily, and to me it's like, this is what could have been. I mean, yeah, I understand a lot of people will say, well, Sonic and Amy are probably the more logical choice, especially if if Sega ever said, okay, do it, kind of deal. Which I don't think they ever will, but who knows. But basically, Tails and Amy has always been discussed by a lot of fans, and probably the more suitable couple, sort of like, okay, if you can't have Sonic and Amy, here's a suitable replacement for Amy to have. And basically, they also, when they read the comics and sometimes they watch the show, they kind of base it on the fact that, and even with the games, they kind of base it on the fact that but Tails and Amy are basically closer in age than Sonic and Amy. So, to me, that's kind of what you base it out of. And, yeah, logically, I think you look at that, and it does make sense. They could have had something there, and, they probably still will. Who knows? But this is kind of like what could have been scenario as of right now. It's kind of like what could have been. And the reason, again, that number 5 is there's still a possibility, but right now we really can't say, and it's more of a what could have been deal. At number 4, is definitely one that I think a lot of people have debated about a lot, especially now that you have Mystery Incorporated on the air and its situation there. But you sort of get a subtle hint in one episode or something like that. but Daphne and Shaggy. And this all started basically back in the early to mid 80s when they started bringing Daphne back into the fray, back into the picture. To, in my opinion, like I said before, basically I think attract a more young female audience to the show. And there was a lot of indications in her first, in those, I think, 3 to 4, I'm guessing about 3.5 to 4 years that she was associated with just Shaggy and Scooby and Scrappy, that there was, according to a lot of people, there was subtle hints there. I mean, there was strong hints. Some even say that those 3.5 to 4 years were basically showing that Shaggy and Daphne were now a couple or something like that, because, there's a lot of things, like the 11-minute short in one episode called No Thanks, Masked Manx. Basically, Daphne's taking Shaggy and Scooby and Scrappy to see her parents. And usually, if you're a supporter of Daphne or Fred, you'd think she would take Fred and not Shaggy, but, she's taking Shaggy. So, and they do dance together in there too, so that's kind of cool. And then, of course, you got other subtle hints out there, and then you got the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. And people point out subtle hints there, not subtle, but point out the fact that here you have, like one episode you have Daphne coming down the stairs when it's really, really late at night, like really late at night, early morning, very early morning. She's coming down the stairs and she's like, it's something in the morning, you guys are up doing this. So it's, again, this is more of a pairing of what could have been, because after this, we don't see it no more. We don't see it. I mean, people have indicated that even in the earlier shows, like the Scooby-Doo show and Where Are You, and in the Scooby-Doo movies, in the new Scooby-Doo movies, that there were hints there as well. And that even in a pup named Scooby-Doo, there were hints, and I think even with What's New Scooby-Doo as well as had hints. And then, of course, there's like this one scene people pointed out where Daphne, I don't know if she thinks she's kissing Fred, or Shaggy's thinking he's kissing Velma, or it's both at the same time, or both are thinking the same thing, and they end up kissing each other on the lips. So, that kind of hinted, was kind of a hint to that as well, and if not, in my opinion, a nod to what was, but then again, we really don't know. But again, and I know I sound like I repeat myself there, but basically, Shaggy and Daphne, even though they were paired together along with Scooby and Scrappy for a few years, never really got to show any more than what just being like friends and partners and teammates. But there were hints there, and basically their relationship is something that what could have been deal as well. But now that's kind of like out the window. But some people say there's still possibilities. But like I said, that's kind of out the window right now, especially with Mystery Incorporated, because now you have Fred with Daphne, and you basically have Shaggy with Velma. But again, it's more of a what could have been deal. And to me, it definitely, you just got to check out what I'm talking about. But it definitely, you see a lot of hints and a lot of indications of what could have been in the show, what could have been, in the franchises when it comes to Shaggy and Daphne, basically of what could have been deal. All right, number 3. Like I said, it's kind of difficult here, but this one's really going to throw you people for a loop. Number 3, both from animation, both have been portrayed. This relationship basically has been portrayed in comics and animation, but now with everything that's happened so far and the different kinds of media and all that, Gambit and Rogue. Now I know. Now let me stop you right there. I know you're thinking they are together. Yes, they are, or they were. You see, it all depends on the medium that you watch X-Men in. Like the 90s cartoon basically indicated, yeah, they're kind of like a pairing, they're a couple. There's no disputing that. And the comics back then as well kind of showed that there was no disputing it as well. But as we got later on in the show, the newer animated shows that came out, like Evolution and Wolverine and the X-Men, as well as the X-Men movies and more importantly Wolverine Origins and stuff like that, it kind of became an indication that, and especially now with the reboot that has happened, as some people pointed out, in all of Marvel, basically Gambit and Rogue, unless I'm missing out on something, are now a what could have been couple. Basically, they did have a relationship, they did have all that, but it didn't get taken to that next level. It really didn't get taken to that next level, and we didn't see what more could be done with the pairing because of the different types of medium that you saw X-Men in, that you saw them in, and the fact that you have the reboot that occurred. So basically, to me, for what they had at the time, I think they did a tremendous job. I think Marvel did a tremendous job with it. You know, I think Marvel really did a tremendous job with Gambit and Rogue. I think they did a tremendous job in the comics as well as in the cartoon, the 90s cartoon. But now that's all basically what was, and now it gets led in what was, which is now being turned into a what could have been, because there could have been more. They could have done a lot more with these characters, with this couple, with this pairing. And I know people are going to say, well, they did their fair share. Yeah, they did, but there was so much more they could have done. And again, though, you kind of see why it's more of a what could have been now, because, for example, you take a look at Wolverine Origins, and Gambit is in it. And this is supposed to take place years before Logan, or Wolverine, meets Rogue. Years before. So it kind of indicates that it's different continuities, different mediums, and it depends on how you look at it, like I said. But to me, it's more of a what could have been deal, because, you know, this is a pairing to me that really could have flourished, really could have taken to that next level, but we're never able to do that. So to me, it's more of a what could have been deal now. Basically a what was and now what could have been. So, you know, what are you going to do? Number 2. Wow. Number 2 is going to be it's kind of weird to pick out number 2 because, you know, you don't know exactly how to look at it. But to me, this is a far-fetched one, but I think you could definitely tell they could have done something with this. But I have to go with Nosedive and Mallory for Mighty Ducks. Yeah, I know you're thinking, Brian, you're reading too much fan fiction. Really? Am I reading too much fan fiction? Then let me ask you this. Why were there several scenarios, scenes, hints, whatever, where you kind of had them teamed together? Do you think it's a coincidence that you would have Mallory play so well off of Nosedive at times in the show? Why he would be paired up with her at times? Why they would high-five each other after, you know, Nosedive or her got a goal in a game? I mean, come on, guys. There were hints there. They just never really capitalized on them.